Today is Monday, July the 13th, 2026. My name is Natalie. I'm the Good Shepherd here on our small hobby farm. It's been a rainy morning. We're in the now early afternoon hours, and everybody, well, the revival's already been in progress, and everybody's just kind of settling down now. And it's always the sheep. If the sheep are not laying down, then I can't do anything. So I'm just going to continue beginning to answer today. Question number 2. Look at my sheep. He's just chewing his cud. All right, everything seems to be peaceful here. My name is Natalie, and back in January of 2022, as I embarked upon a journey coming up to North Carolina from Florida on January the 28th, 2022, I began to fully embrace what I had already begun to be aware of embracing in unknowing but yet aware ways when I fell into bed with COVID round 2 for me on January the 4th, 2026, which delayed my husband and daughter's planned trip on coming up to visit his parents by at least 10 days. Which my hindsight, and that's a big word here, but we're not talking about hindsight today, but I have to write that down because it's huge, hindsight. Okay, stop. Question number 2. For anybody who's following, well, then you'll see. And yet I don't do these videos for anybody else but me, as well as to be able to continue embracing, deciphering, feeling free to actually begin to share. I was a born writer. I'll always be a writer. And yet the day I met Jesus on January 28th during a shared death experience with my father-in-law, I was in my truck driving up from Florida to North Carolina, driving interstate roads, country roads, and my father-in-law was in North Carolina dying in a hospice bed in his home. My husband and daughters had come up, I think 1 or 2 days before I came up on the 28th of January, 2022. Shared death experience. Shared. SDE. And it's been 4.5 years now since that moment. And that moment has simply never ended. And it is when I began to get into everything about life in ways that I couldn't be. And with my hindsight, I've been able to see, well, everything really does happen for a reason. And there's reasons even the bad stuff happens. And a lot of times the bad stuff happens to either save you from something or have you learn something very important. And if not learn it at those moments, receive it, hold on to it, and then it becomes, important at a later date. I take my hat off because I'm not in the rain anymore. I'm a very real person. I'm always unscripted, unedited, unless I add, stars or fireworks behind one of my videos of me dancing with my chihuahua or sheep from here behind Barnway on our small hobby farm. Many years ago, an angel, I do talk to angels, and I have my whole life, and many years ago, a very special angel by the name of Courtney began to present to me that I needed to start videoing myself. And I love Courtney's mother. Her name is Gia. And we are a triangle of life, a daughter who's in heaven, Courtney, me, the messenger, and Gia, the mother. And so because we all three embrace from heaven and earth, all three of us have learned a lot. And Courtney has been a most beautiful guru of an angel to me. These questions are so simple. I've gotten into a forum. I'm nobody special, by the way, in this forum. I'm not like, oh, Natalie, we're studying you. No, I've just kind of hopped aboard. And right now, I am definitely a passenger. I'm in, like, not first class, and I'm not in the co-pilot seat flying the plane, so to speak. I'm a passenger, metaphorically speaking, in my own journey of being in constant awe, bewilderment, amazement to how everything transpires and transforms in life. Yes, for me. And yet also what I continue to see, everything that I'm learning about my life is like, this is what heaven wants for everybody to see. When I met Jesus on January the 28th, with my father-in-law's soul still alive, dying in bed, not with me, in North Carolina and me on interstate roads, my whole being literally had, been catapulted into a whole different venue. And with that hindsight of mine, I do believe that heaven delayed that trip for my husband and daughters, because if they would have driven up as planned, they would have driven that 10-hour drive from Florida to North Carolina, come and visited, gone back home, another long drive, and it would have been a week later, they would have had to turn around and come back, because that is ultimately when my father-in-law, JC, who I had a shared death experience with and continue to have what I call a shared life experience now, 4.5 years later now, all this time. I continue to share my life with all of heaven, and my father-in-law is very much so present, in fact more so present than any life that exists here. And it's not in bizarre ways to me. It's really beautiful ways. And I can say that who we are in life is who we remain in heaven, and yet not really. JC was a beautiful man in life, beautiful man. He remains he remains, JC York remains the most beautiful soul I've ever known. And I did not have a extremely close relationship with my father-in-law. It was a normal relationship. I loved him when I saw him, but he wasn't my dad. I felt like I knew him from my husband, sharing his conversations with him for, I've been married now for 33 years, married 29 years, together 33 years. So I've known his parents. Oh my God, we're 8 minutes into this. This is hard for me. This is really hard, and this is why I video. And I'm not here videoing for anybody else, and so whoever wants to watch these videos, well, I hope you gain something from watching. It is part of my role now. I have a lot of roles that were assigned to me in unspoken ways and in not mentally ill ways. While I did go off of lithium right before I met Jesus, and that would make sense to a lot of people to assume, well, of course she met Jesus. She was on lithium and she stopped it. Woo, Jesus. No. To me, what happened is heaven had me know and understand I needed to be on those medications in order to, yes, protect me and save me and keep me, being pumped full of the life that I was born to eventually become, which half a century into my life, 50 years, that is when heaven said, you are now the good shepherd, Natalie. And it takes half a century for anyone in life to become. These are things that are not found in the Bible necessarily, and yet oftentimes what I do hear from heaven without my ears, it is found in the Bible, totally unbeknownst and unknowing to me. I have terrible allergies. Terrible allergies, like terrible. I have my bone broth soup here. There's a fly in it. Oh, God. I'm not here. Well, this is why I love that I'm here. Because I know I'm not here to prove anything. I'm not here as a scientist or a psychologist or a doctor or somebody seeking fame or fortune or a reality show or popularity or viral videos. In fact, all my viral videos, they're all my hens. All my viral videos, like who even has viral videos? It's been crazy. Crazy? Heaven is crazy. And there is so much. That's why when I look at this one simple page from this forum, the Shared Crossing Project, 11 questions, it's the simplest questions, and yet it's not simple for me to just jump right in. Question number 2 today is, who were the significant people involved in your shared crossing experience, and how are they related? I go, okay, well, I mean, Jesus, but Jesus is not people, right? Jesus isn't always involved when people have shared death experiences, to my knowledge. So this was a big whammy for me. And what I believed was that heaven actually had me, Natalie, yes. Heaven doesn't just do things for one of us in life. When heaven does something for one, it's always for more than one. And I believed that heaven had me fall into bed with COVID in a very peaceful, sleeping beauty slumber for 10 days. I actually added it to my calendar at that point. Repeat every year. COVID. What? Well, let's not forget Natalie's an anomaly. And these are words I also have never been exactly proud to associate with, when I leave doctors and they're like, you're different. You're an anomaly. You don't respond to life. You don't respond to medications. You don't respond to treatments in the normal ways. I mean, many years ago when I got meningitis for the first time, 3 times in 1 year, I nearly died. And that was a near-death experience. I wasn't supposed to come back from that. And yet when I came back from that, well, all sorts of things began to happen then as well with me spiritually, and further connecting and being able to receive more in more led to understand ways. I've never claimed to be a psychic or a medium. Look at me getting off topic. This is hard for me to answer these questions. Okay. I did write it down. Well, clearly my father-in-law, JC, was involved in this moment. He was dying. It was January the 28th, and yet I do believe all of this has been my whole life, and this is not just, there's no just about anything of life, and yet this is one of this was a grandiose moment in my life to have met Jesus, without expecting to, without ever even thinking I would ever meet Jesus, without being a highly religious person, and yet always being a spiritual person, God-loving, heaven-loving, being a kind person to life, always a beautiful soul. And that's where the oxymorons begin to come in also with, my life, when I was diagnosed with bipolar, which, by the way, after meeting Jesus, it was then that I was told by all the doctors that they believed I never had bipolar, which goes into where I thought that lithium really destroyed me, but I never knew it. So when I stopped it, right before all of this began, in bed with COVID, stopped lithium, my husband finally, I get better after 10 days and they leave. And when I left on January 28th, at that point, I knew JC was dying. He was dying. His name is JC, the same initials as Jesus Christ. As well as my husband has the same initials, James Christopher. My tears come from a reality for me that here at this moment in my life where I was catapulted into beyond an awakening, beyond any awakening, and yet it was an awakening for sure, but this was grandiose. And so what happens then is, again, people assume, well, it's because you stopped taking your lithium, so you're like, you're crazy. I've had so many doctors in the past many years. Again, what can they confirm? And yet, from hearing anything and sharing with me, it's like, wow. And yet it's like I had to have that diagnosis and have that lithium for heaven's purposes. Then heaven was like, okay, now it's time to cleanse you, your body, prepare you for this literal rocket launch, of your soul, rocketing. You're going to finally meet your soul, Natalie. We've cleansed your mind. Your body is now healed and healthy after a slumber with COVID. You were nourished during that time. And now it's time for you to shoot off into infinity and beyond. JC was definitely involved. He was my father-in-law. My oldest daughter's boyfriend at the time, I'm not going to use his name, but we trusted him enough to come and stay in our home in Florida to watch all of our pets, our animals. We did not have a farm at that point, but we had 5 dogs. I don't even know, 4 cats or something, 2 pet rats, a whole garage full of respite lizards that I'd find everywhere, and a lot of fish tanks and aquariums, which ultimately, when we returned home, this is why I don't want to go away ever again and leave my animals, because, a lot of life was lost during that time. Obviously, my husband, Chris, was involved in this moment, and my 2 daughters, Christina and Kathleen. And they did travel up here 2 days, I believe, prior to me coming up. Obviously, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law were involved as well. Who I feel were the most pivotal involved persons in this shared death experience were the funeral men. The men at the funeral home, which January 28th is the moment I met Jesus and was traveling up here. January the 29th, I took my father-in-law's Chihuahua to Dr. Tyser, who's another pivotal person. Pivotal. I'm really big into redefining words since I met Jesus and since this shared death experience. Redefining words, redefining emotion, and also keywords of hindsight. Being able to go back into life and be like, now it makes sense. And ultimately now, 4.5 years later, that day that I brought my father-in-law's Chihuahua to the vet to get his itchy injection, and I met the man next to me who looked like Jesus and told me that he was deaf and he didn't read lips, he felt souls, and there was never a dog in his car, and when I left he was waving at me in my rearview mirror and my eyes from the rearview mirror. I mean, it's bewildering. It's so much. This is what's so hard for me to just be, how do you answer a question? Who was involved? A, B, C, and D. Like, Natalie, it's me, Natalie. Like, I need to I'm detailed. These funeral men, I was grateful that my family allowed me to write JC's obituary. And I tried to start writing his obituary while he was still alive, and I couldn't. And the night that he died, it was actually February the 1st, 2022. But it was close to like 11 p.m. and hospice couldn't come out until after midnight, so they pronounced his death legally as February the 2nd, 2022. 2222. On the night that he passed, I was outside at that point in the freezing cold winter air, clear skies, stars. I'd just seen all the astrological signs over our barn here at that point, which was amazing. Anybody that was in the home, our astrological signs in the stars were perfectly aligned above this barn I'm sitting under right now that my father-in-law, JC, built some 40 years ago. I don't remember. I can't remember if what I saw was prior to my husband coming out and telling me that his father had passed, or if it was after. That's really hard for me because I don't remember. And yet what I do remember is what I know I saw while I was standing out here, the east side of the property, which I didn't know anything about the compass of my soul until after all of this. I didn't know about north, east, south, and west until after this. And it was a lot of angels. It was a lot of God. It was a lot of Jesus. The three entities of heaven leading me to such discoveries during this whole 4.5 years. What I saw was a green, translucent ball. I mean, it appeared to be about this size, maybe, you know, translucent, but there was like all sorts of activity going on inside of this translucent ball of green light going over the East Bridge and up over the trees into the starry skies, which when I later discovered from an angel, that was the east side. And that's where I see the East Star, which is really not a star, and yet it is, and yet it's not. It's Venus. And the East Star is what led the shepherds to Jesus being born. I knew what I saw when I saw that green orb go over. It was an orb. And I had seen a lot of orbs in photographs before. You know, we all take pictures and we go, is that an orb? Is that an orb? Ah, that's just the sunlight. That's just the, you know, I've seen a lot of real orbs and I've seen a lot of, you know, oh, is that an orb? I've only seen 2 times in my life with my physical eyes, actual orbs of light energy. One of them was at Beaver Dam in Virginia, Beaver Dam, and now I have a Beaver Hill here. In the woods at Beaver Dam in Virginia. He was just through the woods and it was kind of scary. I felt a little bit afraid when I saw it. When I saw this orb go over, I knew, this was all my senses were there, but my mind was placed on a shelf, and I was like, literally what I saw was so awesome. It wasn't even emotional. It was simply, whoa. Well, at that point, I'd already learned to not really share anything with anybody because everybody was like, Natalie's crazy. So I had begun to kind of shut down, but not shut down. I more so began to go within so that I could give. And I was grateful I was allowed to write the obituary. Well, I wrote a very long obituary. It was a half page. It was probably the biggest obituary this little small town in North Carolina had seen. And when I went to the funeral home to go over with the funeral men, you know, the editing of the obituary. Listen to all my roosters. They actually are feeling me share this right now. This is beautiful because this is all part of it too, my awareness. Even the animals and how they sense what I'm feeling, and what I'm feeling is my father-in-law is with me right now, even just doing this. These are not tears of sorrow. These are tears of joy, and yet it's I'm not even frustrated. It's just really hard to have those that should be closest to you really not embrace anything of you in what you share and what you experience. And so I'm grateful for this moment to have an actual group and organization who focuses specifically on what does happen with shared death experiences. And it is transformational, life-altering. It is always to do with something with heaven, always something to do with God, Jesus, or His Spirit. I mean, I'm just so grateful to finally be able to, put the pieces of my puzzle together, because it's been a long journey of being, outcast and thrown away like trash, treated like a criminal at times. By those who should have been closest to me. Whereas everybody else that I was sharing it with on the outskirts, so to speak, was fully embracing. The funeral men, when I arrived at the funeral home, they were very pivotal in this experience. because they were like, wow. That's all they said. And it was like 11:30 a.m. And if we wanted this obituary in the newspaper for the following day, which then states, you know, the time of the funeral and the viewing and all of that, we had to have this submitted by 11:59 at the latest. If it was 11:50, no, they would not, the paper wouldn't make all, no, needed to be in by 11:59. So there we sat for 30 minutes, me and I think it was 3 or 4 other gentlemen. And we all were reading over the very long obituary, you know, and we were making the corrections and everything. And we were all getting, you know, we were like all like, oh, time oriented. And we're getting there. We're like, oh, okay, here it goes. And then boom, the guy's like, are we ready? And none of us at that point were even aware of the time because we were so consumed in getting the final edits. We had forgotten the time. And the guy goes, are we all ready? Yes. And he goes, I'm going to hit send. It was like we were all like, woo! And he hit send at 11:59. I was not the only one in that room that felt that presence of absolute divine presence and beauty. I'm not a proud person, and so that obituary, the obituary I wrote, it touched me deeply when many people came forward after that, you know, mentioning, you know, whoa, like, oh, the things you shared of JC's life, so beautiful. My first video, by the way, answering question number 1, didn't go over very well with my family, and so I am sitting here a little bit more reserved today because I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm here not to be sad. I'm not here to understand any further. I'm here to share, and I find it beautiful to have such a venue to be able to have a purpose of processing further and sharing. That was amazing with the funeral mem. It was amazing with Dr. Ticer, because at that point I didn't know Dr. Ticer, and I didn't even see her that day. It was COVID. I was in the car. They brought Benji in, brought him back out, and I think I'd met Dr. Ticer maybe when we lived here first, but she wasn't anything, you know, connected to me at that point other than the vet in town. And, you know, 4.5 years later, after we moved here 3 years ago, you know, over the past couple of years, there were a few moments where Dr. Ticer called upon the Good Shepherd Natalie about hens, in particular being egg bound. And I'd, you know, gained quite a reputation, so to speak, on social media, in particular TikTok, for being, you know, the vent lady, always going into my hens' vents and always being able to show what it's like for a hen to not be able to lay an egg and then you see the egg pop out. So for a veterinarian to call upon a good shepherd and to have that beautiful connection of a doctor and a shepherd. I told Dr. Ticer at that point, everything happens for a reason. And at this point, I think you and I were just simply meant to learn more, in particular about chickens. I also have a dear friend. She's my fire twin Gemini friend. And she was the only other person in life besides my father-in-law, JC, who spoke of Jesus. Like, spoke of Jesus, not like proclaiming Jesus, but spoke of Jesus very casually, very, you know, Jesus, you know? And until I met Jesus, I never could comprehend that. You talk about God or angels, I could comprehend that. But when people started talking about Jesus, I was always like, okay. And so this dear friend of mine, her name is Gail, whenever she would pray with me, her prayers were much different than the ways I prayed. And her prayers were always, here again, my roosters, here I'm talking about heaven. Her prayers were always very Jesus oriented, you know, in Jesus' name, you know. As life happens, and we had moved away already at that point, you know, friendships kind of dwindle and you're not there, and so absence, you know, you lose contact with such persons. And it was the next day, on January the 29th, after I met Jesus on the 28th, that I found myself, I had not spoken to my friend Gail in, I don't know, I really don't know, a year or two, a few years, I don't remember, a long time. And I found myself calling her on the phone, and I don't like to talk on the phone to anybody. I'm more of a text or email, person. And I found myself calling her, and she answered hello, and I said, I need to thank you for all the years you shared Jesus with me, because I definitely embraced it. And yet my hindsight has me know that I didn't know I was embracing it, but I knew I was embracing it, but I still didn't know Jesus. So how do you embrace what you don't know? I said, thank you so much for being a part of this, because you're very much so. You were placed in my life. You were placed in my life for many reasons, full circle, and yet the Jesus part was very pivotal, and it's important. Jesus has me know it's important. This is what I told her, to share back with you your role in leading. It's not about people in life leading others to Jesus. Heaven takes care of that. What heaven wants life to do is share. Those are really the only persons that were involved in this significant moment at that point. And yet I still continue to go back and see all the it's never ending. And this is all what's going to continue for me, tying in and connecting all of the loose ends, so to speak. And one day I will be able to share further what I continue to, and what I have my entire life, actually, my entire life, been experiencing with heaven. And yet it was this one moment, the shared death experience on January the 28th, that was my catapulting moment, where everything in my life, everything I'd experienced, becoming the anomaly, being the different, being the outcast, being the black sheep, and now I have a brown and a white sheep. I don't have a black sheep here. Becoming the scapegoat. I don't have any goats. It's sheep. And it's Jesus, meeting Jesus has helped me further understand, well, people don't really like people that talk about Jesus. And yet at the same time, it's simply because of our human existence and our mind. When our mind interferes with our soul, it's hard for people to relate. So I am blessed, truly blessed, and I absolutely hope that one day my family can, begin to fully comprehend that I'm Natalie, and I'm a beautiful soul, a beautiful person, and I am here with purpose, as we all are. And I'm grateful and blessed to, at the age of 53, for the past 4.5 years now, since 48 years old, to have been on this 4.5 year now long journey of discovering my purpose. The Good Shepherd Natalie. And the Good Shepherd Natalie is not just about tending to my flock of animals. Being one of heaven's good shepherds in life is about sharing your role as the Good Shepherd with your flock, and all that I experience. My vent hens and my sheep with bloat, and an old dog dying, and this and that. Heaven gifts me, continues to gift me with animals to be utilized in such ways to share and present to life. And heaven does love social media. Heaven loves social media when it is used in full circle good ways. Not just good for, one. Full circle. That's who I am in a nutshell today. 34 minutes. Question number 2 is under the wraps. And I feel good. And everybody's still chewing their cud. All right, I'm gonna go check on everybody inside, and enjoy the rest of this day. It looks like the rain has definitely stopped for the rest of the afternoon, and I need to go clean some poops from the coops.